Welcome, Frankfort residents, and thank you for tuning in to the Candidate Forum for the Office of Mayor, City of Frankfort, general election held November 5th, 2024. I'm J.C. Young, and I'm honored to serve on the Chamber Government Affairs Committee and your moderator for this event. The Office of Mayor in Frankfort, Kentucky, the state's capital city, is much more than a ceremonial title and comes with plenty of attention. In our form of municipal government in Frankfort, our city commission is composed of 4 commissioners and the mayor. The city of Frankfort utilizes a council manager system. In this form, the mayor presides over the city council meetings and all official city business. It's also the mayor's responsibility to make appointments to certain boards and commissions. The office of mayor in Frankfort is a nonpartisan election, and only the 28,000 plus residents that live and are registered to vote inside the city limits can vote in this election. The office that you're seeking has a storied history in our state's capital city of Frankfort, and it's worthy of candidates such as yourselves. In this candidate forum for the office of Mayor of Frankfort, Kentucky, we're honored to have Miss Katrisha Waldridge and Mr. Layne Wilkerson. Before we begin, I'd like to thank and recognize the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, members and staff for establishing this forum, and also the Frankfort Plant Board for hosting and broadcasting this event. Serving as our esteemed panelists and those doing the real work at this function, our Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Ms. Tish Shade, owner and operator of Canoe Kentucky and Kentucky River Tours, Mr. Nathan Deppenbrock, and chair of the Chamber Government Affairs Committee and Frankfort Plant Board Communications Director, Kathy Lindsay. Candidates, you're going to have 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. You'll have 1 minute for responses to questions. We had a draw prior to the forum, and opening remarks are going to begin with you, Ms. Waldridge, and then completed by you, Mr. Wilkerson. We have a timekeeper. If candidates could please pay attention to the time allowed for these questions, we'd appreciate your cooperation. Ms. Waldridge, the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having us and allowing us this opportunity to be able to reach our residents and share our vision for Frankfort as mayor. Again, my name is Katrisha Waldridge, and I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be a candidate for mayor, though I feel I've led the last 7 years being mayor in a mayor position. I'm a mother of 2 boys, Jason and Josiah. Jason is serving in our Army in Arizona right now in cybersecurity, and Josiah is a freshman at Frankfort High. So they are my reason why in doing this, and I try to make them proud every day. I've enjoyed being a city commissioner for the last 6 years, and I look forward to the next 4 years. I'm a proud graduate of the Kentucky State University of my BA and my master's degree in public administration. I concentrate in nonprofit organization and grant writing and HR areas. As an adult living in Frankfort, I have a deep love for our community. I've seen firsthand the challenges we face, whether it's rising house costs, aging infrastructure, and ensuring that every resident feels safe and valued. But I also see that there's incredible potential that we have, and we can, if we come together, we can move this forward. As mayor, my mission is simple: to foster a vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable city where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. I believe that leadership is about listening and collaborating. I am committed to opening the lines of communication between city, county, state, and residents, and ensuring the voices that shape the decisions that affect our lives and our cities. Together, we can develop comprehensive solutions to our housing crisis, invest in our local economy, and enhance public safety. I envision a city that prioritizes education, workforce development, and empowering our residents to succeed. With your support, we can create a future that reflects our shared values and aspirations. Let's work hand in hand to build a city that is not only a great place to live today, but also the legacy for generations to come. Thank you.
Mr. Wilkerson, thank you for joining us. 2 minutes.
I appreciate the opportunity to reintroduce myself to the Frankfort community. I am your mayor, Layne Wilkerson, and I was born and raised here in Frankfort. And Natalie and I, my wife Natalie and I, 20 years ago made the right decision to move back to our hometown and make this our family's home, where we're now raising our daughters here. In addition to my role as mayor, I founded and co-manage a financial advisory firm in downtown Frankfort, where we help hundreds of clients, families, and businesses alike build a better financial future. Our clients trust us with their legacies, and the City of Frankfort residents should expect no less from their mayor. What's made me a successful financial advisor has also made me a successful mayor. That's the ability to communicate effectively, respect for others, disciplined decision-making, and a steady hand to make sure that a well-thought-out plan is followed through completion, no matter the ups and downs along the way. Natalie and I, we both feel strongly that we need to do more to get back to our hometown. And we've invested in the heart of our city in numerous ways over the years, whether it's serving on leadership positions on nonprofit boards, redeveloping historic properties, or finding businesses to go into once vacant spaces. You may notice some downtown, like the yoga studio on 2nd Street, or Jesse's Frame Shop, or Andy's Bakery. Natalie and I feel that preserving our past is critical to our future, and that we want to do what we can to make sure we revitalize those things that make Frankfort unique. When I began as mayor 4 years ago, we were in the middle of a global pandemic, which there was no guidebook, and we had unprecedented challenges, but yet through my steady and decisive leadership, we've emerged stronger than before. Now we're sitting on the cusp of a transformation that we haven't seen in generations here in the city of Frankfort. And with my leadership, investing in our future and building relationships at the local, state, and federal levels, we're ready to attract millions of dollars in new development. 4 years ago, I made a promise to change the trajectory of this city. I've delivered on that promise, and if given 4 more years, I'm confident that the best is yet to come.
Thank you both for your opening statements. I'm going to ask for you both to pay attention to the timekeeper. We're going to let you finish your sentence, but when we get to the time stopped, we're going to have some, we're going to try to move on. I've got Tish Shade, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, Frankfort, Franklin County, that's going to ask the very first question of this candidate forum. It's going to be directed to you, Ms. Waldridge. You're going to have 1 minute to respond.
Sure.
What do you see as the biggest challenges facing small business in Frankfort today, and how would you address them? And the second part would be, what specific plans do you have to
You're sort of echoing. I'm sorry, you're echoing. Can you?
I'm echoing?
Yes, it seems like you're
Okay.
echoing, so I'm sorry.
First part is, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing small business in Frankfort today, and how would you address them? Second part is, what specific plans do you have to support and grow existing small business in Frankfort?
Okay, that's a two-part question, sort of. So some of the issues that I think that are affecting in our small businesses downtown is being able to get the people downtown. We talk about that we have all these tourists coming in from Buffalo Trace. We talk about that they're coming in for canoeing and things like that, but they don't get into our downtown. The goal is making sure that our businesses are thriving downtown, making sure that all the businesses, as the mayor shared earlier, you know, I helped bring in a couple of businesses downtown as well. You know, you have to talk to people, get people in that's going to drive people in downtown. But I think most importantly is to continue to talk with the business owners and seeing what their needs are and helping out. I started helping with what's called Shop Local Gift Card, and that was during the pandemic, to be able to help people come into downtown, be able to spend money in our local businesses and pour in, and that was $100,000 back into our local areas to support both residents and our local businesses. For plans to grow small, what is the second part?
So the second part is, what specific plans do you have to support and grow existing small business?
We're going to have to stop it. I didn't get to it. We're going to just do this in 2 parts. Everybody
Okay.
good with that? So let's answer the first part. Mr. Wilkerson,
Okay,
you'll have
sure.
1 minute. We'll come back to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Just a
that
second.
works.
Go ahead,
Biggest
Mr. Wilkerson.
challenges facing small businesses. So I am a small business owner. My wife is a small business owner, owns a couple of businesses, including a retail shop downtown. And of course, as I mentioned, we have tenants who are small businesses. So we see firsthand what it takes to run a small businesses. I pay net profit tax. I pay payroll tax. And I know what it's like to make sure we meet payroll every week. I would say that the number one issue facing Frankfort small businesses is creating that critical mass of customers day in and day out. You know, of course, we have the tourism-related businesses that are coming on the weekends, but we need to make sure that our businesses have customers all throughout the week and that it's consistent. And that's one thing that I see firsthand. I mean, we live it. And I think that's the city of Frankfort can do more, and we'll get to that part of the next question next, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Shade, if
It
you
goes
could,
pretty
second part of the
quick,
question, Ms. Waldridge, this will be to you.
Okay.
You have 1 minute to respond to the second part of the question.
So second part is, what specific plans do you have to support and grow existing small businesses in Frankfort?
So some of the plans I would be, number one is being able to meet with them and continually talk to them to see what their issues are. But also being able to have incentives. We do have money that we can set aside and continue to grow to do incentives to help small businesses. And we have to continue to do that. We did that before COVID, and we can do that after. Another thing is allowing them to be a part of the process. A lot of our ordinances, they affect our small businesses downtown, and they don't find out until we're ready to pass them. So we have to communicate with our small businesses and be able to let them be a part of that process when changing ordinances, when raising taxes, and doing things of that nature. Last year, the board, they raised taxes and insurance premium. That affects different businesses, that affects people in general. And so I voted no against raising taxes last year, but we have to make sure that we communicate with small businesses, and that is a huge thing for all of our businesses that they complain about regularly. So number one, being a voice for the people. And I'm always in the streets in downtown asking businesses downtown what they need, when they need it, and what they're looking for. So thank you so much.
Ms. Wilkerson, you wanted to repeat that?
No, that's okay. And I do want to point out that Commissioner Waldridge did not vote no on the insurance premium tax. She voted yes and advocated for a 10% insurance premium tax, not the 9% that we settled on, which I advocated for. So I want to be clear about that. She did not vote no on the insurance premium tax. And I would say things that we can do, we need to, well, one thing that the city of Frankfort can do is to do the things that only government can do, and that's do the big projects that we can create big, like the downtown master plan and the transit center, and making sure that that development happens so that we drive new customers to downtown businesses. It's making sure you partner with the state of Kentucky to build a new road system on the west side so that we can build a new Target and all of the ancillary businesses that are going to come along with that development, not to mention the new households that are going to come. So those are the things that the city can do to make sure that we have more people living here and more people visiting here. Beyond that, we can incentivize our small businesses through a rent program that I'd like to institute, and then also a tax rebate program to encourage development of our dormant commercial centers.
Our next question comes from Mr. Deppenbrock, and it's going to be directed towards Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Wilkerson, you're going to have 1 minute to respond.
So we are in a very unique and fortunate circumstance of being the state capital city of Kentucky. But with lacking funds coming from property taxes and many state employees still not working full-time from the office, and we know a lot of those come from outside of Frankfort, what would you do to make sure that the state does not let the capital city struggle financially? Or what would you do to make sure that the state pays their fair share in our town?
All right, well, I think the number one thing is to build good relationships with those who represent us in the State House and with the executive branch of government, which I've been able to do and I've proven that I can do, whether it's the governor or our state senator or our state representative. And I've been building those relationships. And we already started this process back a couple of years ago when we successfully lobbied the governor and the executive branch to increase the funding that the state gives to the capital city. Customarily, it's been $195,000. We got that increased to $846,000. And now going into the next session, one of my goals is to make sure that we make that permanent and work through our General Assembly partners to get increased funding, more than what we got before, and make that permanent, because there are expenses that we have as a capital city for hosting the state government, which we're grateful to do, but we need to be compensated for that because it's our first responders and our public safety staff that are going to show up on the scene in an emergency.
Ms. Waldridge, 1 minute.
So what I would do is what I've been doing, and that's helping with the relationships with our state capital, with city and county government. I've been in our capital many, many times of meeting and going through task force meetings and committee meetings. I've met with senators. I've met with different senators and legislators in regards to this. Our responsibility is Frankfort, and my goal is to get the capital city to be responsible for the capital city. We're responsible for Frankfort just like any other city would be responsible for themselves. The goal for me is to write legislation to get capital city written into the budget for the state. We should be a line item in the state for them to take care of any tourism that's related to Capital City, any other things that's related to the Capital City as far as infrastructure is concerned. There needs to be a line item. Yes, we did get it increased to $846,000, but the goal is continue to make these relationships happen to where that should have been continued. That shouldn't be something that we're still fighting for. We should be fighting going into the next 4 years for something that is comparable to the $36+ million of state property that they have in our community. And $846,000 does not cut it.
Our next question comes from Kathy Lindsay, and that's going to be directed to you, Ms. Waldridge. You have 1 minute to respond.
Sure.
Okay. Mine's about the budget. I think we have, $45 million budget in the city, roughly. So what are your fiscal priorities when it comes to the budget and balancing it while managing the finances responsibly?
Well, I think my number one goal is what I've been asking for the last 4 years, and that's a 5-year projection plan. In order to get anywhere positively and moving in the right direction, we need to know where we're going as far as expenses and where we're going as far as revenue coming in. I've asked for a 5-year budget definitely for the last 4 years. The last 5-year projection plan we had was with a great city manager, Keith Parker. That helped us gain, that helped us know where we were going to sit as a community, what our expenses were, and what our revenue coming in. That is the majority. It needs to happen for our city as a whole, and it needs to happen for every single department across the board for us to know where we're going. But number one, continuing to bring in more money. I've been in 2 years longer than this mayor, and we actually brought in more grants and revenue then in those 2 years where we had little matching. Now we have more grants coming in, but they're matching. So my goal is to get into that state house, bring in more money to help balance our budgets, because right now we're about a little over 47, and that's with capital expenditures.
Mr. Wilkerson?
I think this is where my financial expertise comes into play. I do have a master's in financial planning, and I've also obtained a public leadership credential from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. So those served me well in working on a city budget of $47 million. And day to day, we work in numbers like this in my business. So what I would say is that fiscally, we need to make sure that we're taking care of the critical items first. And we do that, and we do it very well in the city of Frankfort. We do have some discretionary funds that we can invest in future projects, and when we make those decisions, I think I'm uniquely equipped to make those determinations on what's going to be a good long-term investment. And that's where we want to direct those discretionary funds, is what are projects that are going to pay off in the long term. And it's not just a return on your money in terms of tax revenue, but it's also, what do we need to support the people that live here, like a new fire station. That's one of the things we'll have to do in the next 5 years, and that's something I can help with.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Our next question comes from Tish Shade, starting back over. We're going now back to you, Mr. Wilkerson. You'll have 1 minute.
Okay. The Bridge Street YMCA is collapsing right in front of us and has been for years. What is your plan for that building and to make sure that this doesn't happen to any of our other buildings in our community?
In that situation, that's a issue where I do have to recuse myself. I'm not in on the meetings that the other commissioners are in. It is in litigation, is my understanding. We do have executive sessions periodically that I am not able to sit in, so I can't personally tell you what the status of that is. But I think in general, though, to your question is how do we prevent that from going forward? I think it's code enforcement and making sure that we identify those properties that are at risk long before they get to this state where we have a situation where it's demolition by neglect. And I would like to save as many properties as possible as long as it's financially feasible. And there's sometimes you do have to move on. But I do think it's a question of enforcing our code enforcement. And this year we put extra funding in the budget to have auditors to help us go out and do more compliance. And that's a budget that I was happy to support. My opponent did not.
Ms. Waldridge, you have 1 minute to answer this question. Would you like to repeat it?
Please.
The Bridge Street YMCA is collapsing right in front of us and has been for years. What is your plan for that building and to make sure that this doesn't happen to any of our other buildings in our community?
Well, as stated, it is in litigation, and we are not really allowed to talk a whole bunch. But what I can say is since this mayor has been in, I have focused on trying to get it on the agenda so we can move things forward. And being that he is over the agenda at this time, it was really hard to get it on the agenda, even in a closed session meeting, to be able to move forward. So we've now wasted another 4 years of getting this building to nowhere. Another thing is also, yes, how do we prevent it? Code enforcement, and actually adhering to that. Not allowing folks to buy buildings for $1 and think that they're going to get a payoff with the city if they hold on to it long enough. And I feel that that's the concern that I have right now with this particular building. Where, with the mayor's mother and father-in-law of holding on to this building and not really doing anything with it, we continue to hear dreams that are smoke. And if it's true, then let's build for it. But why letting something that is now something that you can rein in on top of the there's holes in the roof, it's raining in, and asbestos is coming up over that park where our children play, and that's not okay.
Our next question comes from Mr. Deppenbrock. Mr. Deppenbrock, that's directed towards Ms. Waldridge. Ms. Waldridge, you have 1 minute.
Tourism is arguably one of our town's #1 assets, especially being the home to one of the largest and the most awarded distilleries in the world, that being Buffalo Trace. Frankfort has lost its convention center and the tourism business that went away with it. Tourism is an important part of building our local economy and supporting local service sectors amenities such as restaurants, shopping, hotels, Airbnbs, etc. Tourism dollars improve our local quality of life and allow us to showcase our beautiful community. So as mayor, what do you plan to do to increase tourism?
That's a big question. I feel like our tourism is moving in the right direction. As mayor, I want to continue to support our businesses and continue to support all of our tourist areas around. The goal is making sure that we communicate. Right now, when we watch the television, we see more videos and more commercials for other communities. We have to let them know what our positives are for our community and get them out there. It's like we're a hidden treasure right here in the capital city. My goal is to actually do what needs to be done. And that's number one, sort of the mayor said I did not support the budget. Well, you're right. I didn't support the budget because I wasn't given everything that he had to be able to pass a budget, and I do not plan on ever passing a budget that, number one, I never have all the information for. But however, that budget will have tourism dollars for us to continue moving forward, and moving Blair Hecker in a position that she is now to be able to communicate what's going on in our community, I think will help tourism in Frankfort perspective and be able to work with the Chamber of Commerce and with DFI to be able to push things forward. Susie has come in to be able to help with tourism downtown and continue to provide other programs to be able to move our city forward.
Next question comes from Kathy Lindsay.
I get
Kathy.
to answer that, don't I?
Oh, he didn't answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who didn't get to answer it? Mr. Wilkerson?
No, and tourism, of course, when I came into office, I talked about diversifying our economy away from state government, and one of those pieces is tourism. And we know what, and you know, what tourism has done, particularly with bourbon tourism lately. And we've already shown that we're big proponents of tourism and working with the state to secure funding for a new convention center. 5 years ago, that didn't seem possible, but because of me working with our leaders in the General Assembly, we were able to get money for a new convention center. So we're committed to that. We're on a time frame. It's going to happen. And beyond that, we're seeing 2 new boutique hotels open this year. We were instrumental in helping those out, either financially or trying to get grants to open those new hotels. And going forward, we just received a grant for $750,000 to help with the revitalization of some of our historic properties. And that's something that we're going to make those investments to make Frankfort more appealing, to continue to keep people here, coming here, because that's something we're committed to as tourism.
Thank you both for that. Now our next question comes from Kathy Lindsay.
Sure.
That's what they tell me.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask
This is going to be directed, excuse me, to Mr. Wilkerson.
Okay. You're both going to answer it at some point, I promise.
We'll see when.
Okay. I know that previously right now we're in a city manager form of government. The first part of my question is explain the difference between the city manager form of government and the mayor form of government. And I know previously we had talked about the possibility of taking it to the people to see if they would like to change the process or the form of government we have. Which do you prefer and why?
Well, the city manager form of government is most common for cities our size in Kentucky. It's Owensboro and Paducah and Richmond and Danville and Covington. They're all city manager form of governments. So is Frankfort. And that's, we have an executive body, which is the mayor and the 4 commissioners. We make the executive decisions. City manager carries those out, including most day-to-day operations, staff relations, and so on. We make some of the hires. City manager does most of that. Now, last year we had an opportunity to put that on the ballot, but it was such a short time frame. I didn't feel our staff had time to turn that around. I didn't think the public had time to be properly brought up to speed on the differences. I think going forward, look, as a mayor, I see the advantages of having a strong mayor form of government where the mayor can be more of the executive. And that's something I think, to put that on the ballot in the future, I would prefer that to be community-led, a petition-driven ballot initiative. And if it were voted on, I'd support it.
Ms. Waldridge, 1 minute. You want Kathy to sum that one back up?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
And
Okay,
then
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, the mayor explained the way he views the difference between the strong mayor form of government and the city manager form of government. So previously there was talk of the possibility of us changing that here in Frankfort. Is that something you would support? And I want to add this on, maybe the mayor can say this. If elected mayor, is that something that you would go for?
Well, I would support it, and the mayor did explain very well that, so I won't go over that. But what I will say is when it did come up on our board for this, we had ample time to do it. We had ample time to do it, but once again, this mayor loves to drag his feet on certain things. And things like this, when you come about that maybe you may not be able to lead your own company, that you won't be able to give the time, it becomes very personal. And so, no, when someone steps up to say they're going to run against you for mayor, and you're not sure if you're going to get that position or not, you don't want to turn something over and change a government, and it may not be yours to handle. So, yes, do I think it would be great? But would I, as mayor elected on November 5th, go for it? Right now, what I did do is when we were hiring for city manager, I brought up in closed session that we wanted to hire 2 city managers, and we've done that. So I think right now the best thing to do, and not be impersonal, is what's best for our community. And that's give these 2 city managers ample time to run this community in the way that we need to. We have 2 strong city managers that are supporting each other, and see how that works for the next year or 2, and then come back to the table on whether or not we want that to be a mayor-run government or not.
We're going to try to get to one more question, then we're going to have closing remarks.
Okay.
Maybe Kathy could find one that's less than 1,000 words.
Sorry. Told you I was going to wing it.
No, that's okay.
Tish, you have a question?
I do.
All right, great. This is the last question before we get to closing remarks. Y'all are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Frankfort has nearly 40 empty storefronts and shopping centers. What are your plans to encourage new businesses to occupy these storefronts, and what would you do to infill them?
That's you, Ms. Walker.
Okay. Well, I'm going to continue doing what I do now, and that's reach out to different developers and different people that I know in surrounding areas and continuing to share on Facebook when we have open space. Number one, everyone knows I never meet a stranger. And about 1.5 years ago, I was downtown and I met a couple, and I walked up to them and said, "Hey, can I sell you this building downtown?" And they said, "Oh, no." And I said, "Well, it's this many miles from Buffalo Trace. Tell them about our community." And they said, "Oh, you must be a politician." And I said, "Well, I'm just concerned with my community, but yes, I'm a city commissioner." 1.5 years later, she kept my card. And now that's why we have the Pink Flamingo in downtown, because I was able to give her, she was able to give me a call. I said, "Come on down." I showed her a lot of different open spaces, and she was able to move in, as I'm sure that the mayor has done a couple himself. But this is what we have to do. We have to get our businesses out there, but we also have to be incentives and be able to make our storefronts look appropriate. And so, like he said, our staff was able to get a $750,000 grant, and hopefully we'll be able to put some of that into those businesses downtown and incentivize to be able to make our downtown look more beautiful and make our storefronts where someone would want their boutique or other things located.
Mr. Wilkerson, 1 minute.
Yeah, and I think, the difference, with me recruiting businesses into my own storefronts, those are buildings that I actually put my own money into and restored them against sometimes my better financial judgment at the time, because Frankfort wasn't in the same position that it is in today. It was hard to do some of those projects when appraisals were much lower than they are today. So I think it's different when you have your own skin in the game and recruiting businesses, because you have more at stake. And that's the mentality that I take into this mayorship. Having said that, some of the larger projects that we have were the old commercial centers. We need to incentivize those, and one thing we can do is try to get site control over some of those, offer tax incentives, similar to what Covington has done, where they offer tax incentives to the property owner, to whatever jobs or taxes come from that property get rebated back. That's the very least we can do, plus offer some type of rent subsidy program to make sure we get the types of businesses that we need downtown. Not just, let's wait and see what comes. Let's go out and find the ones that we need to complement our existing businesses.
We've now reached a time for closing remarks. This went really fast. Like I said, you all have done a really good job. We're going to start with you, Mr. Wilkerson, this camera. You got 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you all for the opportunity today. And first, let me say I'm proud of the progress and the momentum that we've made during my first term as mayor. Frankfort really is having a moment right now, and we've seen a remarkable amount of private investment come into our community since I've been mayor, whether it's the announced Target that will be the largest in the state, and the first planned Target in 24 years in Kentucky happening on the West Side development, or the new boutique hotels or establishments opening downtown. It's something to be excited about. And the city of Frankfort is doing its part to bolster that private investment by going after major significant public investment, whether it's the completion of the 2nd Street Tiger Grant project, or $20 million for the Home Street revitalization, or getting funding for a convention center, or advocating for riverfront development funds. All of these investments, once they come into our community, they're going to help our small businesses. Looking ahead, Frankfort has the opportunity to have over $300 million worth of investment flowing into our community. A new convention center and an indoor aquatic center are going to, they're going to get the most attention, but it's beyond that. It's riverfront development. It's building new housing. It's investing in our parks. And it's also incentivizing the dormant commercial centers that I talked about before. And this wave of progress is not accidental. It's a collaboration between myself, local, state, and government, federal officials, and it's the disciplined leadership that I've shown along the way. I believe in building a brighter future for the city of Frankfort, and not just building on the foundation we've laid, but creating a more vibrant, thriving Frankfort, one that's filled for opportunities for everyone. We need a proven leader that's shown that they're committed to this community, someone with the financial expertise, the vision, and the patience to see these transformational projects through to the end. That leader is me, and I'm asking for your vote today, because if given the time, we're just getting started, Frankfort, and the best is yet to come.
Ms. Waldridge, 2 minutes, closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today and just watching in. Thank you for your engagement in our community's future. I'm honored to share the vision for our city with you throughout this forum. We've discussed the challenges we face and rising costs. I don't want to read my statement. I want to take a time right now that since 2018, I have done nothing but lead and be the person that I want to be for you. And that's someone who is accessible, someone who is transparent, and someone who is honestly being a mayor for you. Do not get lost into the words that are so perfectly over and over given to you, or the lies that are written on people's door knockers. Believe it or not, we, as this commission, we have worked together, but this community is ran by our staff. Our staff are the ones bringing in this money, not the mayor. The mayor has had many meetings, so have I. So I'm using my 2 minutes to tell you that I have been here and I've been transparent and I've shown up. And this mayor has taken a stab at me on Facebook to say that it's more than about just showing up. Well, I beg to differ. Every leader and every successful person that I have looked up to and everything, and we've all grown up to say that 90% of success is about showing up. And I've shown up. I've gotten to know each and every one of you in this community. As a foster child, I had materialistic things. It was grab your trash bag and put your clothes in it and let's go off to the next home. I've always been attached to things. But here in Frankfort, I don't have to have things. I have people, and you have become my family. And it's time, Frankfort, for you to have a mayor that cares about you and cares about this community, and not using a mayor to help them or their business thrive. But it's time for you to have a mayor who goes into the State House and asks for things that are going to help you and not me personally. I'm taking this time to ask you for your vote for mayor because I have led as mayor over the past 7 years. I'm not going to shoot statistics at you because they're out there. We'll share more. But know that the development and things of Target was not brought here by this mayor, but by many people before me and before him. We just cut the ribbon during this time, and so are many other things. So thank you for your time. I ask you for your vote on November 5th for a mayor for you. A vote for Katrisha is a vote for you.
As we close, I would like to thank you personally both for attending and seeking this office. You've put your name on the ballot, spent your own time and money, skipped out on family events only to serve your community, and I want you to know that it's appreciated. You've both done a really good job, and I wish you the very best in this election. There have been some election law changes statewide in the last several years, and there's now multiple ways for you to cast your ballot. Mail-in absentee ballots, in-person early voting before Election Day, which is October 31, November 1st, and Saturday, November 2nd. There are 3 locations in the county in which you can vote. You can show up at any one of them. In-person on Election Day voting, November 5th, 2024, there will be 12 polling locations in Franklin County, and you can show up at any polling place and vote. As you know, 2024 is a presidential election year. Statewide, this ballot includes all 6 congressional seats, the entire State House of Representatives, half the Kentucky State Senate, many local and jurisdictional elected positions, and voters across the Commonwealth will decide on 2 constitutional amendments. To say the least, it's an important election. If you don't know where or how to vote, please call the Franklin County Clerk's Office at 502-875-8702 or check out their website. It's loaded with current election information to help you exercise your right. It's been an honor to serve as the MC for this event. I'd like to thank all the folks that are not on camera for all of their work to make this possible. That concludes this forum. Thank you for joining us.